Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be rating all of the 2025 precons. So it looks like we're not going to have any precons for the rest of the year unless the avatar set does surprise us. So we wanted to go through all of the precons that have come out this year, talk about which ones I think are best, which ones I think to avoid, or which ones need a bit more love, I guess. Incredibly, there is only 13 precons that have come out this year compared to the 24 from last year, which I know for some people is going to be great, less product coming out is always good if you don't like if you're buying everything and stuff. I do think that some of these rank up there as some of the best precons that you can buy right now, if not some of the best precons of all time. There is some absolutely incredible ones here. I think that they've kind of really come into their own as starting to kind of push the precons in regards to what they're reprinting, what their new cards do and stuff, just to be, more synergistic and work well together. So let's go through them. We're going to start out at the start of the year with Aether Drift. I know, only 6 months ago it came out, but somehow still relatively new. So first up, we've got the Eternal Might deck. This one here I really, really like. It's a deck built around zombies, card draw, and discard. There was a lot of reprinted zombie staples within it, which was really great, and some great tools for the deck as well, some new cards as well, which is just incredible. And it combines those side and main themes really well, Zombies were already doing stuff to do with discard and draw. It combines, those together with the, everything that it wants to basically do. And you can easily build this towards different themes. If you want to focus more on the drawing stuff, you can go that way. If you want to focus more on zombies or zombie tokens, you can go either of those two directions. Or if you want to focus more on the discard, you can go that way. There's just a bunch of themes that work really, really well together and form this just really great deck. And I know that it does say Aether Drift, and you're probably thinking, oh no, I don't want like this silly racing set. This was not a racing set in regards to the precons. The precons were actually quite different, which is good. I loved it. So we've got Temur Roar's Will here as our commander. He's got Vigilance and Menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard. Whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, I know that sounds kind of hard to track. The way I do it is basically, as long as I've got Temur out on the field, because that's the only time it's really relevant, is I will keep track of which zombies I can attack with this turn. So there's not really many ways to get haste within Esper, so you don't really have to worry about the ones that have just come in this turn, and then keep track of how many cards I've drawn this turn. That's basically the way I do it. It's pretty simple. Then on the other side here, we've got the On Wings of Gold, which was one of the new cards that was printed here. It gives your zombies or tokens. So this works even in other token-based decks, which is good. +1/+1 and flying. And then whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, you get to create a zombie token. Next, we've got the Living Energy, which was the complete opposite side of this one. So this one here also came out with Aether Drift, and it was built around energy and artifacts. But I just don't think it combined those themes very well at all, and both sides kind of suffer for it. The artifact stuff doesn't really push hard into artifacts. The energy stuff, there's some good energy stuff, and you can really, make a bunch of energy with some of the cards in here. But it doesn't have, the artifacts to kind of go alongside it, which I just wasn't a big fan of. If you use the secondary commander here, Pia Nalar, she works better with having a huge energy dump into artifacts. But it just kind of tried to combine these two themes that just didn't work incredibly well in these colors. Once upgraded, it can be quite potent, don't get me wrong, and the deck Roar just tries to do too many things that just don't stack up well. So looking at it, Saheeli Radiant Creator was like the face commander here. Whenever you cast an Artificer or Artifact spell, you get an energy. You're not going to cast all that many. There is a whole bunch in there, but there's not enough that I think that's super relevant. This part here is better though. At the beginning of combat, pay 3, then you can create a token that's a copy of target permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types and has haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of your next end step. I do think that overall, the other one that came out last year with Modern Horizons 3, I think he was a better commander for an artifact-based deck, but then you're in Jeskai instead of Temur, so you're kind of swapping that green for the white, like the white for the green here, but they didn't kind of lean harder into the green stuff enough. You've also got Nissa, World Soul Speaker here, who was one of the other new cards there. Whenever a land you control enters, gain 2 energy, and then you can pay 8 energy rather than pay the mana cost for permanent spells you cast. She's really good, and I think that if you lent more into artifacts and landfall, that would make the deck a little bit better, but as it stands, I just don't think it was synergistic enough or strong enough from there. All right, now if you guys are liking this content, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share the video around, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and this is the last day. This is the last day you can help support my dream of hitting 20,000 subscribers by the end of July. I've got a little ticker over there that's slowly ticking up, so please help us. All right, into Tarkir Dragonstorm. There was 5 new precons with this one. One themed around each of the old new clans. Like they were gone and then they've come back now. So they were the old ones, then now they're new. Yeah, anyway. So we've got Azem Armor first up here. This one here was focused around defenders and toughness matters, and there was lots of new fun and reprinted inclusions in here. Now, the issue I had with this one was that it's a good new strategy. Like, it's a strategy we hadn't really seen in a precon before, and it was good at walling up, but there just wasn't enough kind of oomph to be able to attack, I don't think. There wasn't enough kind of stuff that allows your defenders to be able to attack. And then there was some kind of weird side themes here with like sacrifice and reanimation stuff, as well as from there as well a life gain kind of sub theme. Your secondary commander, the Baitor, was really great, but then the actual deck didn't work incredibly well with this like life lost, life gain theme. It's just kind of, yeah, there's a couple extra themes in there that didn't work well with the defender stuff, but if you went into the defender stuff more, it works incredibly well, and it's incredibly fun and interesting kind of precon. Very different. Like, they tried to do a new thing, which I love, but it just kind of fell a bit flat because of the side themes they tried to put in it too. We've got Felithar the Steadfast here. So she is she lets you attack with your defenders, and then also your creatures can assign their combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power. So you're looking at creatures have, like, you know, she's a 0/5, but when she's out on the battlefield, she's essentially a 5/5, like she's not a 5/5, but she is kind of thing. So she still counts as having 0 power, but she deals damage as if she had 5. You can also pay 3, tap her to sacrifice another creature and draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. But there's not enough reanimation to kind of make use of that, I don't think. It's useful, don't get me wrong. You can get huge card draw off of it, but there's not enough reanimation to kind of make use of it, I don't think. You've also got Canopy Gargantuan over here, which was one of the new cards. A big dragon. Each of these precons had like a big new dragon alongside it, which was good. And this one here adds +1/+1 counters equal to their toughness. That's really good, except it then also ends up making it so that certain cards aren't as useful within the deck. Like, there's a Skulk card that gives you card Skulk, but because then your creatures are bigger, they no longer will have Skulk. So it's still really great, but there's just not enough to give you like the oomph to actually win, in my opinion, within this deck. Next up, we've got the Jeskai Striker one. Now, this was one that I was very tough on when it first came out, and I'm still a little bit tough on it, but it's still better than I thought it was. So it's a Spellslinger non-creature themed deck that aims to cast 2 spells per turn. There's a side theme as well of token creatures, which works well, and I think that I like Elsha more as the it's just a more fun and interesting commander. There's a huge amount of staples within this deck, though, for any Jeskai Spellslinger deck, or even if you're just building a Izzet Spellslinger deck. The new cards, I think, are a bit so-so, and the bigger issue I have with it as well is that you really need to get that machine up and running, and it folds easily if that gets broken. You need, like, you know, some artifacts out there that will buff up stuff, some enchantments, and then you need your creatures that are also pumping out value from you casting this stuff. And if some of those start going down, then you start kind of falling a little bit behind. But it's still a great deck if you wanted to build like a Jeskai Striker deck, a Jeskai like Spellslinger deck. Shiko Narset here is a very interesting commander. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell if it targets a permanent or player. So you're looking at cards that target people that may not normally target people. Like, there's like some that are like target player draws 3 cards instead of just you draw 3 cards. That's interesting. And then if you don't copy it, then you get to draw spells. And then Veyran was reprinted within here. I just wanted to show her off because she's a great card that works incredibly well here. And seeing her reprinted was really, really good. We got the Sultai Arisen one, an S tier deck. I love this one. It is really good. All the main themes, the side themes, all work really well together. There's like a side theme as well of reanimation. Sorry, not reanimation, of ramp and stuff too, like landfall-ish kind of stuff that works pretty decently well too in here, even though it's meant to be like a side theme. It still works well if you use Tval as your commander. It just works well in regards to, like, it's got enough stuff to mill you down, it's got enough stuff to reanimate, and enough stuff to kind of have those triggers for cards leaving your graveyard as well. It's just clear ways to upgrade this deck as well that work great, to make use of. If you want to have some more reanimation stuff, that's great. If you want to add some more, ways to be able to mill yourself faster, you've got stuff like the mill card from Modern Horizons 3, Ripples of Undeath. Sorry, it's just, there's clear ways to be able to upgrade it, but out of the box it's still really great. So you got Tval, this balanced scale here, who is your like face commander. I think that like Tval works better as your face commander. Whenever Tval attacks, you mill 3 cards, and you can put a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Just easily ramp out with your commander here. And then also, whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. And that's also not tapped, which is good. And then Tval's Judgment is kind of like that, except, adds a couple extra options in it. These cards here I really like. There was one as well within Aether Drift that was Monument to Endurance, which was whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been done before. This one here is whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, choose 1 or more. I just like those. They're just really fun and really interesting. And they're relatively strong, and they're not too overpowered, I think. But either way, this deck just combines all of the main themes and its side themes just well, that it was really good to see. Next up, we've got the Mardu Surge one. So this one here is a token creature based deck. Now, I say token creatures, but while it is token creatures and there's a whole bunch of ways to make 1/1s, they also added in a whole bunch of myriad stuff. So then you're creating, token creature copies of your creatures, which is really good. It also has a token doubler reprinted in it, which, while it's not the best token doubler, don't get me wrong, it's not even a good token doubler, it's still a token doubler reprinted within this deck, which I was really surprised to see. There's a mix of, like, as I said, stuff that makes small tokens, myriad tokens and stuff. It's very, very aggro, very much able to swing the game in your favor and kind of burn people out, just slowly kind of burn them down with either direct combat damage or creature dying damage and stuff. And there's a side theme there as well of aristocrats or advantages from your creatures dying or leaving and stuff, which is really good. We've got Zergo Stormrender here as the commander. He's got Mobilize 1, and then whenever a creature token you control leaves the battlefield. Now, that's important, the fact that it says leaves the battlefield, not dies, because if it's stuff like the Goldblast Triad here with Myriad, those exile at the end of combat. So they don't die, they just get exiled. So therefore, you're still getting the triggers for Zergo. So you draw a card if it was attacking. These ones here, at the end of combat, they're still a part of combat and they're still attacking at the time, then you're going to draw cards off the Myriad there. Otherwise, you're going to burn people. Each opponent loses 1 life. So all that Mobilize then turns into you burning people, which is really good. It's great. And then the Goldblast Triad, as I said, about the Myriad, that kind of shows up there. And then also this one here has, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to create treasure token. Because you're attacking, you're going to also get to attack the other 2 players with the Myriad, and therefore potentially generate, up to 3 treasure tokens in a turn with this. We got the Temur Roar one. Now, I'm very harsh on this one, and I know that some people are going to come to war with me about it, but I just do not like this deck. It's meant to be a big creature-focused deck, right? You're building up big creatures and casting big creatures, primarily around dragons. And it does say ramp mana on the box, but I think it's just missing a lot of ramp. In fact, I think the Sultai Arisen deck had more ramp in it, or just as many like direct ramp cards that this one has. It just doesn't do it well enough. They also went really heavily onto the red dragons, purely red dragons, and left out some of the more interesting blue, green, or like, multicolored dragons. There is lots of ways to upgrade this, and you can make a really great, dragon-based deck around this. It's insane. Even adding in just Mirim and then using Mirim as your commander just makes this deck 100 times better. But in my opinion, from out of the box, it's just a deck that's going to potentially fall behind because you need to ramp up into these big dragons, and if you don't draw any of a ramp, now you're sitting there with these huge dragons in hand that you can't really cast. So I've got Urani the Unwritten here, who I really like. My wife uses Urani as her commander, and oh boy, it's absolutely very, very frustrating. So Urani has flying and trample. Whenever Urani attacks or enters, look at the top 8 cards of your library. You can choose a dragon card from them, put it onto the battlefield, just directly onto the battlefield, which means it can even attack that turn if you've got haste, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So if you've got haste on the field, what happens is Urani comes out. You look at the top 8. You then draw a dragon. You put that dragon on the battlefield. You then go to combat. You attack with Urani and whatever else you've got out there. You then get another dragon out. And then, if you're like my wife, then you decide to, hey, I'm going to have an extra combat. And then Urani's going to attack again, creating more dragons. It just gets out of control really easily. You do need to, obviously, that's with the upgraded version of the deck, but it's bonkers. Then you've got Dragon Tempest over here, which is whenever a creature you control enters, it gains haste until, with flying, it enters. It gains haste until end of turn, so that's how you can get some haste onto your big dragons. And then whenever a dragon you control enters, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of dragons you control. That was reprinted within here, and it is really good in any kind of dragon-based deck. Now, into the Final Fantasy ones here, we've got the Revival Trance one. So this is a reanimation-based deck with getting cards into your graveyard by either milling them or discarding them. There is a lot of legendary cards within here, legendary creatures, but some of them aren't very synergistic with what you want to do. It's got a good basis for a reanimation deck, but it's just missing ways to be able to get things into the graveyard, I think. And, you know, some more synergistic legendaries or just creatures overall. It can really pop off, especially if you do use Celeste as your commander, though. And for this one, I'm actually going to show you both the commanders that come with it. Celeste Rune Knight, I think, is the better one. So when she enters, you're going to discard any number of cards, then draw that many +1. And then whenever one or more other creatures you control enter, if they come from your graveyard, whether, you know, cheated out or you cast them from your graveyard, you're going to put a +1 counter on each creature you control. So when you do big reanimation things, all of a sudden, boom, you're slowly kind of building up your whole board, and you get up to there and you've got Celeste as a 10-10 swinging in for just destroying people. And then you've got Terra, Herald of Hope here, who has mill, two cards at the beginning of combat, and then she gains flying. And then when she deals combat damage to someone, you can pay 2. When you do, you get to reanimate something. It does unfortunately come in tapped as well. So it's a little bit, you know, frustrating that way, but it's still like a nice reanimation there. And when you combine the two of them, they're just incredible. That's what I did for my Pride event, was I used Terra and Celeste. And I know there is probably a whole bunch of fan art and fan fiction out there about Terra x Celeste. So I just felt like that was really fun. Next up, we've got the Limit Break. So Limit Break is an equipment-based deck with a theme of 7 powers matter. So there's lots of equipments that were reprinted in here or printed within here for the first time. And it synergizes really well with the main set cards as well. Like the Boros within the main set of Final Fantasy was equipments. So it synergized really well with that, which was really good. If you do want to keep the deck like, you know, Final Fantasy only, and I actually did upgrade guides on all of the Final Fantasy decks to keep them, you know, Final Fantasy only. There's some really decent ramp in here, some good creatures to equip, and nice ways to just end the game too. There's also, as I said, some stuff that was reprinted in here that's just really great, as well as stuff to protect your board, which is so important in these, like, you know, really aggro decks, is to have protection for your board. So in here, we've got Cloud X Soldier, who has haste, and then whenever he enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to him. Whenever he attacks, you can draw a card for each equipped creature attacking that you control. And then if Cloud has set power 7 or greater, you're going to create 2 treasures. So you're going to attack with him, you're going to attack something to him when he enters, and then you're also going to get to do drawing and create treasures. It's just really good. And then you've got Wrecking Ball Army over here, which is a new card that was printed. It's going to give the equipped creature base power 7/7, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. If you equip that onto Cloud, now Cloud's 7 already, and boom, you're just creating 2 treasures each time you attack. We've got the Cloud Counter Blitz one, and honestly, I think that this deck is potentially up there as one of the best precons ever printed. It's just Absolute cinema. This deck is crafted just insanely well. It combines the themes of counters with proliferation, and then you're also going to have like more than just +1/+1 counters. You've got stun counters to bring some control in. You've got shield counters to add some protection. It's got ramp. It's got board protection, ways to get a lot of counters out at once and then just really run away with the game. It also has some of the new Saga creatures as well. One of them that I was using just bounced people's cards back to their hands, so I would just continuously use Titus, move the Saga, the lore counter off of it, and then at the beginning of my next turn, put the lore counter on. Now each person needs to return, I think it was a creature back to their hand and stuff. It was just great. There's also a turn 2/3 infinite in this deck. Like, you can get that out on turn 2 or 3 if you get incredibly lucky, but that infinite is just insane. Yeah, it's just infinite damage to everyone. It's great. So we've got Titus Yuna's Guardian here as your like main commander. Like, the other like Yuna in this deck is just really good too. Like, either of the two commanders here can work really well. So this Titus has at the beginning of your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control to a second target creature you control. Then whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you go and draw a card, then proliferate. You can only do that once per turn. So you get to draw cards, proliferate. If you deal damage to someone, it's great. You get to move the counters, but it's any counters. So you can move those, as I said, like the lore counters off of people. Continuously keep your Saga creatures around for longer. And then you got Sin Unending Cataclysm here, which is just crazy great, crazy fun. So when he enters, you're going to remove all counters from any number of artifacts, creatures, enchantments. Then he is going to get X +1/+1 counters, where X is twice the number of counters. You remove 10 counters, now he's got 20 +1/+1 counters. Yeah, and then when he dies, you get to move those counters onto something else and then just shuffle him back into your deck. Because why not? Just shuffle him back in and then bring him back later on. We've got the Scions and Spellcraft deck. So this one here is based around spell slinging or non-creature casting, and aims to cast things with 3 CMC, so 3 mana value or higher. There's a side themes of the Scions within here, aka just the legendary creatures, but that doesn't work really well with the main theme, especially because some of those Scions just don't synergize well with the actual deck or the spell slinger / non-creature casting that the deck wants to do. There's some really great cards in here, some amazing reprints, and so like with some upgrades, the deck can be absolutely incredible, but out of the box, it's just, I think, missing too much for it to be like, you know, top tier. Just having too many of those creatures that don't synergize really well with it, or just, you know, don't synergize at all. So we've got Y'shtola Knight's Blessing. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that between the Scions and Spellcraft and the Revival Trance one, if you upgrade both of them, not necessarily with Final Fantasy only upgrades, but just upgrade both of them, the Celeste and Y'shtola are up there as some of the strongest commanders. They're absolutely incredible. So Y'shtola has, at the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, she deals 2 damage to each opponent, and then you gain 2 life. So if you do give her lifelink, now all of a sudden it's you gain 8 life, right? So one of my friends has a Y'shtola deck, and he put the Kefka's, I can't remember what it is called for that, but it's Ball of Citadel. So he had that out, and he was just able to just continuously cast from his deck, especially because then he could also deal 8 damage to each person until he hit like a second land drop, I think it was. It was great. It was really frustrating, especially because there's this Dancer's Chakra, which was a new card that was within the deck. Each it gives equipped creature +2/+2 and has lifelink, and then other commanders you control get +2/+2 and lifelink as well. So you could just buff up your Y'shtola with that. Next up, we've got the Edge of Eternities, the final set for this year with Precons. So the first up is the World Shaper one. I'm very up on this deck. I think this deck is incredible. I think it's incredibly fun, and I think it's just got everything that I would like from a deck and everything that makes a good deck. It synergizes really well across all of its themes. It has some crazy reprints. It has all of the lands and the ramp that a growing deck needs. It has stuff to do with the sacrificing. So the main theme of this one is sacrificing lands, but it's not just sacrificing lands. There's other sacrifice stuff in here as well to take advantage of, you know, creating little 1/1s and then sacrificing those, or, you know, sacrificing your other creatures to make your bigger creatures grow bigger. Like there's just a whole bunch of stuff that works incredibly well and knits well together to make this good kind of landfall Jund deck. Into the new cards, like just showing off the two of the cards, we've got Srazrel Genesis Shepherd here, has flying. You may play lands from your graveyard, and then whenever you sacrifice another non-token permanent during your turn, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Srazrel's power on up to one other target creature. Now, that might not sound like much, but I've seen that it can get out of hand very quickly. Like you play a Fabled Passage, that's sacrificing a land. You have other things that sacrifice lands, boom. You have things that let you play lands from your graveyard, and then you have stuff like the Maestro's Theater here. That one has, whenever it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. So if you have additional land drops, all of a sudden you can play, 3 cards from your graveyard, 3 lands per turn. You just play the Maestro's Theater 3 times. That's sacrificing 3 non-token permanents. Boom! You're putting three lots of whatever his power is on each on a creature. It's just great. And then the other one here is Hearthell the World Seed. This is the one I'm going to use as a commander probably. It's one of the new spacecrafts, so they can technically be your commander now as of Edge of Eternities. It's got once it's got 2 charge counters, it's got pay 1, tap it, sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards, and then you can play an additional land this turn. But once it gets to 8+, it's got flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life. So you can just sack your lands, drain people out, especially because there's a whole bunch of lands that you sacrifice that while you are sacrificing them, you are getting another land out, like the fetch lands and stuff, right? Like it's just a really fun and interesting deck. I'm very, very excited for this one, and it just looks incredibly out of the box. Then finally, we've got the Counterintelligence deck. So this is the last deck that we're going to be covering because it's the last one this year, unless Avatar surprises us. This one here, I've got up as an A because I just think it's really well crafted as well. But I just don't think it stacks up quite as much to the Counter Blitz one. It's kind of like a budget Counter Blitz one, because Counter Blitz does essentially the same things as this. However, this one here has added into it artifacts. Artifacts. So going back, it's got counters, it's got proliferation, and then it's got also artifacts added in here. However, the great thing about this one, and I really like it because they've done something more unique than just let's do another +1/+1 deck, is it's got charge counters and uses charge counters a lot, which is just a very interesting, very unique kind of thing. And the side theme of proliferation just works really well here, where you're going to be, proliferating all your +1 counters, all your charge counters, all your station charge counters and stuff as well. Overall, it's just really nicely themed and works well with all the themes that are in it. It's just not quite as great as the Counter Blitz one. With some love and tender, adding in some upgrades and stuff, they can easily be equal, but I just think this one out of the box is just not quite up to that. But it's still an A. It's still an incredible deck up there. A really, really good one. So into the other cards here for Orbit. So we've got Kilo Apogee Mine. He goes infinite very, very easily if you've got a way to tap him and untap him. And then whenever he becomes tapped, you proliferate. So you can just tap him with like a Paradise Mantle, untap him with Freed from the Real. So you're just infinitely tapping, infinitely proliferating, infinitely getting +1/+1 counters or charge counters or whatever you're after there. And then our other, commander here is Inspirit Flagship Vessel. So this one here has station. If you've got 1 charge counter on it, it's got at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter or 2 charge counters on up to 1 other target artifact. Technically, it can, put a +1 counter onto a different spaceship that isn't manned yet, like it isn't up to being a creature yet. It's not going to be relevant until it becomes a creature, but still you can technically charge something up with it. And then also, the charge counters just get out of hand. I've seen the Gavel of the Righteous that comes in this deck. Once you add a whole bunch of +1 counters onto that, and then if you equip that onto your Inspirit, it's game over, because this thing has flying. It also makes all of your other artifacts hexproof and indestructible, so they can't be targeted. Sure, they could be board wiped, but realistically, not many people are going to be having a board wipe that's going to also exile artifacts, which means you also will get to keep all your other artifacts. There's also like a new thing in here that gives your next artifact you cast or next spell you cast Sunburst, and God, it's just really strong. Sunburst is a crazy mechanic to kind of see returning here. It's like however many colors of spells you use to cast the spell, it's going to get either +1/+1 counters or charge counters, and it's just great. So these are my top choices for this year. I really, really like all three of these decks. I think that they're all incredible. Now, just because I've got these as my top choices doesn't mean there's not other incredible decks here. There was actually an insane amount of like really great decks this year, I think, compared to like, last year. I think that there was only a couple kind of stinkers, and even then I don't think there was any decks that I would say for you to actively avoid. I think that overall the decks, once you upgrade them, all of them can be just absolutely incredible. And I think that all of them, I'm talking like 10 upgrades or something like that. Not like talking about, hey, let's gut half the deck or anything. There's just a great amount of really good decks this year. As commander players, if you are, using precons and that's what you enjoy, I think you've ate very, very well this year. So I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.